can say proudly and confidently that we are standing at the place of the world's premier operational location for our space launches. In fact, the Florida Space Coast is home to, I think, 40% of the world's space launches. We launch more here from Florida Space Coast than all of the other spaceports in the United States combined. This is truly a gem of the state of Florida. It is a location and an operation and a mission that I am committed to making sure that Florida remains the go-to location for the world's launches, and it will not falter on my watch. So it is great to be back here in Florida Space Coast, which has been the launch pad of space exploration from the very beginning. And one of the reasons we are here, and the two of these gentlemen are standing with me, is because while we have been the premier launch pad of space exploration, and in fact, so much of the first in space exploration started right here, we are still relying on infrastructure that was built back when we started the nation's space program. And so, if you'll remember, I think the first launch lifted from the Cape back in 1950. So, very first launch of 2026, and we're still operating on infrastructure that was built decades ago. And one of the things and one of the challenges we are presented with is that infrastructure needs to be updated, modernized, and strengthened, because we now have a launch capacity that is skyrocketing, no pun intended. I believe just not a few years ago, we were launching in the teens every year, and we just hit over 100 launches in 2025. It was the highest number of launches we have had in the history of the Cape. And just since the late teens, I think we've increased our launches by over 500%. So you cannot increase capacity of launches at that fast a rate without going back and examining how we're going to maintain this on old infrastructure. And so, as a new senator who was just appointed last year by Governor DeSantis, who has been very focused on making sure that Florida maintains our position in the great space race, making sure that we are the gem, the asset of America's space program, I made it my mission to make sure that we were doing everything we could to support Florida's Space Coast, Florida's space economy, and the public private partnerships that have really accelerated the number of launches and the innovation in space exploration. And so we just celebrated when we saw our return to our moon mission, and we're just celebrating this year in our nation's 250th anniversary. And so we don't want to lose sight of what our ultimate goal is. We don't want to take our foot off the accelerator. We want to stay focused and moving forward to making sure we're getting things done for Florida Space Coast. So I'm here today and excited to be here today to announce new legislation that I am filing to propel our nation's space program to new heights through our Space Ready 2.0 Act. This is vital importance to both our national security and economic success in the United States. We want to make sure not only that Florida remains a leader on our Florida Space Coast and our 6 spaceports, but that the United States remains a leader in space innovation, and that we do not lose that lead among our foreign adversaries. Florida will continue to play an integral role. We have the Canaveral Space Force Station, Kennedy Space Center, Space Florida launch complexes, all that we need to be paying attention to and making sure that we're supporting. NASA supports more than 35,000 jobs in our state, with more than $8 billion in economic output. We know that space launches on the Space Coast, not only have they been increasing, they're requiring new types of equipment, new types of approaches, new partnerships in order to launch so many in a condensed period of time. We believe that the Space Coast will be supporting upwards of 500 launches per year within the next 10 years. So think about how quickly that is escalating just from a few years ago. And so we've got to be focusing on this infrastructure. We know that there are funding challenges right now as a whole in any area in our nation. We are looking at how we are going to be funding particular agencies and being responsible stewards to our taxpayers. Uh, Very concerning is that the NASA Office of Inspector General just released a report last month that talked about the overall state of NASA's launch infrastructure, and they mentioned that the Kennedy Space Center is utilizing that infrastructure from the 60s. And just to put that in perspective, that goes back to the Apollo program. That's the infrastructure that all of these new launches are using and to trying to keep pace with the new capacity demands. It is estimated, according to that report, that NASA is going to need upwards of $1 billion of upgrades to keep pace with the Artemis launches. So Florida can't afford to fall behind. So I'm introducing the Space Ready Act to keep pace with that infrastructure demand and the rapid growth of the commercial space industry. This will give NASA a pilot program that allows the agency to accept and work with private contributions from our commercial partners and projects at NASA. It does not, and this is very important to me to make sure everyone understands, in no way does this bill mean that there is new spending programs or a new treasury fund, or it doesn't authorize new federal spending. This is a legal mechanism to facilitate voluntary contributions into our aging infrastructure. It is important to me as someone that takes very seriously our use of taxpayer dollars that we are thinking outside the box and making sure we are using innovative programs to fund some of this demand. So this will build upon NASA's existing authority. It allows private sector partners to voluntarily invest in infrastructure improvements that will directly support the missions that they and the United States rely on in this new space race. Government should never stand in the way of innovation. And this bill will go a long way to making sure we are clearing out any bureaucratic hurdles to foster more innovation and success in the space race. If private industry and partners are willing to contribute, we shouldn't let our laws stand in the way of that. Again, our facilities are more than 60 years old, and having this private investment will be the best way to support the increase in launches that is demanded by our new space race. So I am proud to introduce the Space Ready Act today. I have seen firsthand over my career that public and private partnerships can really propel um, projects to success. And we need to get out of the way and make sure that we are doing everything we can to support this gem in Florida, which is our Florida Space Coast. So I'm committed to ensuring the Sunshine State remains the launch pad for American leadership in space.